This curtain was perfectly designed. I had the right measurements, the right fabric, the ceiling track I wanted, but the moment it went up, I knew it was wrong. And the reasons aren't something you can see until it's actually in the space. But to come to this conclusion, I want to share with you one rule that I learned in architecture school that has been useful to me not just at work, but also in life. The rule is this: when in doubt, test it. Before executing anything big, test it on a much lower scale and at a lower cost. So before buying or making 6 high-end curtains, buy or make one that is much cheaper, just like the one you want. Or just one instead of 6. Hang it in your room and observe it. You will have so many realizations about what you want or don't want that you could not have foreseen, no matter how much thought you had put into it. This happens because curtains aren't solid objects. They stretch, they fold in slightly different ways, depending on their composition and environment. You can't predict that from measurements, photos, or even renderings. You have to see it live. So instead of committing to a certain type of curtain based on what I saw online and just buying it, I decided to test it first. I went to IKEA and bought the closest thing to what I thought I wanted at the time my curtain should be. A pair of Kaisa, I think it's called, curtains. They always come in pairs of 2. However, IKEA only sells curtains up to 3 meters long, and mine should be 328 centimeters if I wanted to reach the floor, which I do. And so I went to the IKEA sewing service and asked the seamstress if she can extend one curtain by using material from the other. Now, shortening curtains is fairly easy, but extending them was another design decision that I didn't really think that much through and didn't realize it was quite important. Because when you extend the curtain, there would be a seam along the bottom of my curtain, and that didn't sit right with me. So I added a black ribbon to hide the seam. I'm just gonna share a pro tip here. If you try to make a seam invisible, it only stands out and looks cheap, like you didn't have enough material, which in this case, I did not. But if you make it stand out, it gives the impression that this was a design decision, that you wanted it that way. It looks less like a mistake you're trying to make up for, which I'm definitely doing right now, and more like an intention. But what I didn't know is how high or low this black ribbon would be positioned, because the seamstress said she needed to cut more from the bottom than just the end, but she also couldn't tell me how much, so I had to see it at the end. When I got the curtain home and hung it on the track, I also realized that the color isn't quite what I imagined. When I saw this curtain in the store at IKEA, it seemed like it was a light gray, but when I hung it in my space, it gives off a sort of greenish tint. I'm not sure how well this is captured on video, but what it made me realize is that I probably want a lighter neutral tone than what I have here. The other thing that I noticed is how this curtain falls. Because it is made of polyester 100%, the folds are big and rigid. And in my mind, I think I was hoping for a softer material that when it falls, it's able to create more folds. But even when I try to force folds with pleater hooks, fall in such a way that by the time they end up to the bottom of the curtain, they are quite bulky still. So the way the curtain looked and hanged wasn't quite matching the idea I had in my head, and I didn't realize how much these things mattered to me until it was up. The last thing that I noticed that I didn't quite like is that they are blackout curtains. Now, I thought that this would be something that I would like, but when I hung the curtain in the room in my workspace, I realized that I did not. Since this is a room where I work, what I need is probably a more sophisticated way to filter various amounts of light in various corners of the room rather than block it out completely. So I need a material that still allows light to go through while creating a lot of folds that I can plop together in various spots, but a blackout curtain would not be suitable. Now, I can hear some of you say that making one test curtain that you know you're not going to use is actually a costly expense. But you know what costs even more money? 6 wrong curtains. So I believe the test is definitely worth it because materials in their composition, in how they fall, how they meet the light in your room, create a lot of variables that you could not have anticipated. Some realizations are subjective, sure. You think you want blackout curtains and then you realize you don't. But if you don't give yourself the time and the space to test your ideas and notice the things that don't sit right with you, you'll not be able to create a design that supports your physical and emotional needs. The biggest realization this test curtain has given me, though, is about the relationship between the hooks, curtain tape, and material. So in the next video in this playlist, I want to talk about why thinking about this matters more than you think.